Word up, mic check. Joining us today, frequent collaborator, friend to the channel, the one and only Professor Sky. 9-second applause.
8 seconds. I think I've only ever gotten a 1 second before. This is exciting.
It's all happening, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Yep, just out here on my porch. I'm a little bit bundled up. Let me know if this jacket's making too much noise.
No, you're good right now. I think
okay,
you sound crispy and clean. All right, so we're going to today's conversation. We are discussing who's had a better 2024.
Yeah.
TDE, Top Dog Entertainment.
Yep.
Or Kendrick Lamar. Now, I want to preface this before we get going. Obviously, Kendrick is TDE. Right. Yes. I mean, like, there isn't a rift. I think 2024 put any rumors of any friction between him and his former label to bed. I also think that, it really does, in my opinion, signal the strength and relationship that they've had for so long, that Kendrick and Dave Free were able to start PG Lang, which is their music marketing vehicle that's separate from TDE. So we understand the landscape, guys. They are together. But when we think about, 2024, the year that Kendrick's had and the year TDE has had, to me personally, I think we're looking at rarefied air, especially considering the fact that perhaps the flagship artist, perhaps the most known, maybe not flagship, but the biggest artist from TDE was able to split off, and they still have a great relationship and have still put together amazing years. That's worth discussing. So what do you think, Professor Scott?
Yeah, so like the reason I was thinking about it was that reason. Like this year's been defined by this beef of Kendrick and Drake and all the anger and the gnashing of the teeth and all that. And then at the same time that's happening, we have this whole beautiful story about all these friends who work together and aren't together anymore, but managed to, what's that term that Gwyneth Paltrow used? Consciously uncouple? Like they consciously uncoupled from each other and they still work together. So like I think it's fun because every time I point this question out, everyone hits me in the comments. Sorry, I gotta take off my jacket. It's whistling too much. It's bugging me.
Did you say
bugging the audience?
I can't hear it here. I can't hear it on this end, to be honest. So.
But yeah, so like I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to just really put them up against each other? Because I can't think of any entertainer having a better year than Kendrick has had this year in terms of just like impact and artistic strength and vision and commercial success and artistic success. And then I can't think of a time when like a rap label has had 3 such great rap releases, like different styles, but in the same like general like wheelhouse. And like every time they come out with an album, you're just like, oh my God, this is so good. Like how good can it possibly be? So yeah, I thought why not have that sort of debate? And we were talking before you hit record. Like you didn't know what I was going to say. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Like that's why I want us to have this debate, understanding we don't think anyone is beefing. There's not going to be any diss tracks or anything, but like who really did win 2024? Yeah. I mean, okay. All right. So why don't we say like on the count of 3, who do we think won? Okay. So either Top Dog or Kendrick. You want to try that?
Yeah. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
TDE.
Top Dog.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Look at that. We agree.
Right.
All right. So what's your reasoning?
Well, I think one, this is the 20th anniversary of the label, right? So Top Dog, as the lore goes, was a street dude who realized that hustling was only going to last for so long, made a pivot into music. His uncle, I believe, was in the music industry. He was, he helped put out We All in the Same Gang. And so he took some inspiration from that and built a recording studio in his house. And the first artist he signed was J-Rock. Then he signed Kendrick. Then he brought Absol, then he brought Schoolboy Q and Absol. Maybe the order's off, but those are the 4 foundational members. And so in 2004, this improbable, in my opinion, journey to music history, the talisman of hip-hop history, began. So it's already a success story, right? Just to be a 20-year-old organization, to celebrate the successes that they've had and, from improbable circumstances, that starts the year, right?
And also, I mean, when we talk about rap labels, there's like layers of independent, right? And it's like Cash Money is not as independent as No Limit, right? Like No Limit is 1,000 times more independent than Cash Money, right? Like there's that whole kind of idea. And Top Dog is about as independent as you can get. Would you say that? I mean, you're more of the industry expert guy.
I mean, I would say so. I mean, they have their artists on different labels,
Right.
so even, you know, their artists, they put their music together in house, but they're working with companies all across the music
Right.
industry, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't do distro services, for example. They don't offer,
Right.
to my knowledge, they don't offer any, ancillary services to artists that aren't signed to their label.
Yeah.
From what I can tell. So I think that's about as indie as you get.
Yeah. I mean, with wide reach, it's really impressive. And for 20 years of it, and to start off with that roster too, that's just insane. I
Insane.
mean, that's just. I mean, I just did a video on West Side Gun, and I was just sort of talking about all the people who he signed from Buffalo. It's like, how is it possible there's this many great artists from Buffalo? And it could just be you just need somebody who's smart enough to find the people in an area, and then you just have to hope that they, So maybe that's what Top Dog did. Just like someone was smart enough to find the people, because obviously they're there.
Yeah, I mean, and also curating the
Yeah.
artists. Like artist development is a real thing. And even if it's become secondary to analytics in recent years,
Mm-hmm.
when you put effort into an artist, or when you have a system that puts effort into its employees, its players, it's whatever. Like I've been thinking a lot about the San Antonio Spurs recently, just because
Okay.
of some of the stories coming out about Wembyana. They talked
Okay.
about how Wemby was having a bust year to start this year, and post interviews, he's like, with the coaching staff, we sit here, we talk about the things that we want to do, so I'm not worried about it, right? And then last night he drops 50 points with 7, 8 3-pointers or something like that. That the Spurs franchise have done great developing their players,
Right.
and so when you have a franchise that works that way, it to me signals a more consistent pattern of greatness, and that's what TDE does. Like
Yeah.
they spend time allowing their artists to find their voice, find themselves, find their sounds. There's been a number of stories from different artists who have been interviewed over the years who reiterated that point in one way or the other. I don't think there's any label that's without friction. People are always
Right.
going to disagree with their company one way or the other.
More
But
production, more advertisements, all that stuff. Yeah.
right. And so, I think that they've been really great at developing talent, taking raw talent and then packaging it in a way that makes them successful outside of just perhaps their natural born skill set. And so, that's what I think of when when I think of how they've been able to be so successful. I'm not sure if there's just this many talented artists, in LA necessarily, even though,
Right.
Isaiah Rashad's from Tennessee, I think,
Yep.
Dochi's from
Obviously,
Florida.
Dochi's from Tampa or wherever.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's really the culture that helps give those artists the opportunities to be themselves, to grow, and therefore make an impact.
Yeah, and that really it's the. I mean, I love the Absol project. That's more recent, but like it's the 1-2 punch of Schoolboy Q being like everything that somebody who loves hip hop wants in a rap album. I mean, like I just listened to it again, like just whatever hour ago.
I did too. Yeah.
It is so good. It's every single thing that you wanted back in 99, and Jay-Z releases an album, and like you hope it sounds this good. Like it's that level. And then to have Doechii the same year, like the female, the youth, the different part of the country, like the future, you know what I mean? Like just that 1-2 punch is just, it's outrageous. And I'm a little bit scared because I feel like the expectations on Doechii are going to be so high because I think she's going to win the Grammy, I think.
Which one?
And so the best rap album.
Do you think Grammy's going to win Best Rap Album?
Yep. I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
hope
I-
so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best, and I think there's sort of like that energy behind it, like that story and that feeling. But yeah, I don't know, that just made so like between like SZA, who hasn't released yet this year, but she might, right? Between SZA and Doechii, and kind of like the young women and then the old dudes, and all kind of mixing together. But well, wow. See, I thought that we were going to disagree on this, but I also didn't know what I was going to say because I almost said Kendrick.
Yeah. Well, I went with TDE. We'll get to the tipping. I'll share my tipping point a little bit later.
Yeah.
But like, if you really look at, look, the year right after, it's their 20-year anniversary, right? But they start off with SZA getting all kinds of Grammy nominations for SOS. Yeah. That's an album. Well, Control's her first album, right? And so SOS is her second album. Control, they're probably doing 2,000 seater venues, when that, it was a huge hit, don't get me wrong, but her name she wasn't a household name by any degree. And then so with SOS, they're doing arenas.
Yeah.
She even showed up in the battle. Drake said, SZA got you wiped down. That's how successful SZA is. SZA has, we start the year, that album came out last year, of course, but that was one of, to me, I was actually kind of surprised it didn't win Album of the Year at the Grammys. Yep. I was actually kind of surprised,
Wait, what did win?
Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift always wins.
Oh, okay.
That's what Grammys are the Taylor Swift Awards.
Yeah. Well, so are the MTV Awards. I forgot they're both. Yeah.
Wow. Right, and the MTV Awards I don't even think they nominated SZA last year.
Yeah, that's all like fan voted, so you're cooked.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So but it's a 20-year anniversary. You get SZA. You started off with all these nominations for SZA. Then you get right into Blue Lips.
Yep.
Blue Lips, which for me, I'll be honest, was a slow burn a bit. I couldn't figure out what was happening because so much was happening on that album.
That's why I love it so much, because you're like, wait, now we're over here. Now Yearn, like, does Yearn have a place on this album? Oh, it really does. But does it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so but that album felt somewhat of a return for Schoolboy Q. And I think when you have the success of, I guess, pretty much everybody around you at that label for so long, I'm actually a bit surprised by how the appreciation for that project continues to grow.
Yeah.
Like, people are still outside online fighting for Blue Lips. That's what, the first 2 months of the year? That's a great start.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that, and I felt that with Ab-Soul as well, that it feels like the quality that the label brings is really being understood by a wide number of people. And that's the thing, like, to lose Kendrick and then carry on that goodwill and that general sentiment, like, if it bears this mark, it's probably quality, like, that really feels like that's just growing. And now I just think about what it would be to be on TDE. It's like guaranteed people are going to take you seriously, that they're going to think you're probably good, and can probably, if with a little bit of work, sell out arenas. Like, that's everything you want.
Right. And, they are the Motown of our generation right now. Like, they are the place to go for top tier, undefeated, unquestionably Black music.
Yeah. And the fact that they stay mostly independent really helps them.
Right.
Because you're not going to have to deal with, because it's like, whatever. Like, when did Def Jam sell out? I was trying to think about that. Like, when did they sell because they sold the Island, but they sold to Universal. I don't mean to ask us questions. We should not answer these questions. But they were already.
It feels like 98 to me. It feels like 98. I know Russell cut the bubble quick, right? Because as soon as you have the Federal Communications Act, 1996, so that allows for consolidation. And the labels knew about streaming. They knew about MP3 files. The production side knew about that. So he sold before a lot of these companies ended up getting a hit because of Napster.
Right, yeah.
His timing was great. So it feels like 98. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that Motown comparison. And also, too, that's the thing, is that when it's like the quality that they have in the producers, where, with the exception of, if you really pay attention and read credits, then the names who are producing Top Dog projects. But if you don't, it's okay, because it's going to be a high quality. And so, Devin Malik is here, and, whatever, Tay Beast is here. And, like, there's a lot of the same names that keep popping up. There's some kind of crazy roster of producers that they have who are, like, not too flashy, who don't have, like, the trademark sound, but are so capable of matching the artist that they're with. Even you just had the instrumentals on Doechii and on Schoolboy Q and Ab-Soul, just they're all just different in the right way. And
Right.
yeah.
Now, one thing that I think, makes this an interesting conversation is that perhaps one of the overlooked projects this year from TDE was Sir, right? So Sir dropped another album this year. And if I'm not mistaken, that song or that project dropped the same day as Like That.
All right.
So here comes Kendrick.
So that's why I try to think of it really sort of more focused on the rap aspect, because it is true that with the sort of the other stuff that they're doing, and then who's that sort of like Alameda came out with an EP, and it wasn't like, didn't set the world on fire, even though it's an interesting project, and I think she's going to be an interesting artist. But it's true that it wasn't. Kendrick's hit rate this year is 100%.
100%, yes.
It's 100% in a world where it's like baseball, and if you hit 300, you're a superstar, and he's hitting 1,000.
He's batting 1,000.
Every single thing he did. Because that's why I was trying to think like, well, how could you argue for Kendrick, which obviously it's not hard to do, but the fact that it started with Like That, which I think is often overlooked, that he's on there with Future and with Metro. So it's like whoever it is that you consider to be the thing that represents whatever Kendrick is not, the syrup and the drugs and all that, and he's there with them, and that's how he starts off the beef. Like he starts off the beef not on home court with that crazy verse, and it's like, as we've discussed on this channel and as you've discussed, like obviously Kendrick knew exactly what was going to happen. Like it was like he planned out the whole thing. It was like in January, it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then he drops Like That, and everything just played out exactly as he wanted it.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I find really interesting about it taking place on the Future and Metro Boomin project, right? One, it really has, ultimately, if you really look back, it really does feel like Kendrick has been plotting this for a long time. If you could, Damn's my favorite Kendrick album, and there's some stuff that, like, listening to Element sounds so different, post this battle. Listening to Mr. Morale particularly, I feel it's almost like every track in there has some element of this battle that shows up. And so jumping on that feature with, probably Drake's biggest advocate in Atlanta, perhaps his biggest advocate in the music industry, not named Jay Prince, which I feel like it is more, legacy based than anything that's coming out of Rap A Lot on the music side currently.
Big legacy. You're right.
Right. It's a huge legacy. Right. But but jumping on that with Future and Kendrick, Drake is looking at, one of his probably seems like closest friends and siding with the ops.
What a time to be alive. What a time to get killed. Like, damn.
Right. Yeah. And then, from a strategy standpoint, that sets it off. Then we get to push-ups. And, I think maybe that's a week or two later. And then Kendrick chills. Clearly he wasn't chilling, but there was some time. There was like 11 days or something that went by before he responded.
And that's a crucial time too, because Kendrick has kind of made his brand I might just drop out and fix bicycles in my driveway. Like that's his brand, is like, you might not see me. So, I don't know how you felt. I thought he really might be done. Like he really just might let this happen, and this might just go over, and he might be a child of light who doesn't need to respond to such provocations. And then,
that's what J. Cole should have been. He should have just been a child of light in that moment. I never doubted that he was going to drop. Especially after Drake said what he said on that song. Drake is, because Drake does question Kendrick's relationship with TDE.
Yeah,
he raises. Truthfully, perhaps that's the origin of this concept of this conversation.
That's true, because that was push-ups. That was, all about talk. Yeah,
and SZA, like he was weaponizing TDE against Kendrick in that conversation, right? But then all of a sudden we get Euphoria, and then he said, "Top, who the fuck he think he playing with? Extortion's my middle name. Soon as you jump off of that plane, bitch." You know what I mean? And so, but then obviously that battle plays out the way it does. It's super strategic, which pushed, in my opinion, pushed the boundaries of what we've seen in rap battles. You know, let's take accusations aside, just those 4 tracks that he put out that were 4.5, if you put a verse in there, were totally different. They were all totally different approaches, you know. So that was a level of artistry in the rap battle context that felt fresh to hip hop, you know. So even we're talking about his hit rate, and so even in the midst of battle, he finds a way to push people's expectations of what a rap battle looks like from this point forward. Yeah. You know, like from this point forward, if you're beefing with somebody, and you're coming at them with the same way on every track, you don't have the skill set to round out your approach.
Did he just kill battles?
Right. Yeah. Or made them better, you know, one of the two. Yeah. You know, if anybody's beef with somebody, you need to come with a concept. It might work better.
I mean, that's kind of his MO, is like, I'm going to do it so well that everyone else is going to wonder if they should still do it.
Right.
And that's what he applied to that. But even, I was thinking about what you were saying about how he starts off and how you feel Mr. Morale in the beef. I'm starting to come around and think maybe I'm going to answer that actually Kendrick had the better year because this ended up being the year of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Like, this, I think, is the actual year that the album was received. So the album was released 2 years ago. It was received this year, and it was partly thanks to Drake and the Hard Part 6 and all that, and it was partly thanks to this beef. And at the same time, we're seeing artists, obviously Tyler's the best example, artists who already received the album. They were smart enough because they're artists. You know, I mean, I thought it was great, but I didn't understand how great it was until now. So like, he sort of did release an album this year, but like he just happened to release it 2 years ago and we're now catching up with it. And he used the beef to make sure that we understand that. And now the discourse around Mr. Morale is totally different than it was 2 years ago. It's not like, it's okay, but I don't like listening to it. It's like, it seems like it's now on that same level as all of his great works.
Yeah. I mean, you know, one thing there's a lot of I call them the Drake Glazer community, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the criticisms that you see from the Drake Glazer community at Kendrick and Mr. Morale is they'll take things like Kodak Black being on Mr. Morale as some sort of hypocrisy because he's supposed to be above whatever. Right. Now, that doesn't work. It doesn't work as an argument if you know anything about Kendrick, if you've been following it. But that was one of my favorite parts of Mr. Morale, to be honest. Like, Kodak Black, to me, he was like Flavor Flav to Kendrick's Chuck D in a more personal kind of way. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you have one thing that's always resonated in his projects, in his albums, has always been, you know, people on the ground in the Black community. You know? Right. So, you know, the vice on Good Kid, Mad City's his mom, the phone calls, you know, things like that. Tupac ends up being the device on To Pimp a Butterfly. They've got DJ Kid Capri as the device on Damn, and Kodak Black and the Tap Steppers. But Kodak Black to me really was one of the devices used on that project, and it's one of those. It's another reason to me why I think that the message in that album has been able to last a little bit longer, because you have people from there's the community that was most resistant, in my opinion, was the Kodak Black community to Mr. Morale, and they've come around.
What's so fascinating is that, you know, that there's all the high art and low art, like that. These are supposed to be sacred divisions, and they're fundamentally the tools of power, which ends up being the tools of white supremacy. So like basically whenever you have high art and low art, that's what it is. That's why it's really weird talking about hip hop and rap, because like you sometimes say things. And like, I remember one time that guy Punk Rock MBA he clipped me. He apologized to me, but he clipped me when I was talking about Run the Jewels. And I was saying like, you know, if you don't love this, you don't love hip hop. And I'm like, oh man, I look like one of those insufferable people who like looks down on, you know, this other trash, you know, and like having Kodak Black was perfect, because it was like, okay, as soon as they like you, make them unlike you. Like if you think that I won the Pulitzer and I'm going to do every single thing you want me to do, white liberal ruling class, you're going to have to deal with the fact that I just put Kodak Black on here, and you're going to have to write your op-ed about why you don't think it's okay. You know, it's, and also just the way he says the name Eckhart Tolle. That's one of my favorite sounds in all of music. Eckhart Tolle.
1 second applause. Yeah, man. I think, you know, but that album kind of came back. You're right. That it did come. I mean, I think your piece had a tremendous piece to do with its resurgence. I think you explained it a lot
I try.
in a way that in a viral format that resonated with people. But it made its way back around. So that's another notch in Kendrick's belt for 2024. An old album was resurrected through current rap beef.
Yeah, and it's finally getting its flowers, and he was never complaining. I mean, he still toured, he still toured all the stadiums and everything. It's not like it was a bomb, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, so and then you have the pop out right after that. Now, this might actually be a big notch for Kendrick too, right? Because
or TDE,
right. I mean, oh man, it's so tough, right? Because I will give this notch to Kendrick right now. I know I'm sure the whole team was involved in one way or the other with the pop out, of course. But that moment of unity at the end where he brought people from different factions, different sections who are quote unquote enemies, to bond and unite. That's something that transcends music.
Yeah. And I think probably if we want to give a half notch to TDE for being invited there as well, like their unity is fundamental to the other unity that's being explained. Like think about the early 90s with the the Eazy-E and Dr. Dre beef and all that stuff. Like I know it's fun and we look back at it and gap tooth, Dick's got to fit, all that stuff, but like it's really sad that they ended up fighting over whatever Jerry Heller and like that kind of tore them apart. Like maybe. Sorry, I got some kind of intense airplane flying over me.
You're good over here.
Okay, good. So like whatever that was, like the unity between them, despite the fact that they lost their biggest star and despite the fact he left the label that has been with them forever, they were together. So that might have helped the entire environment to just have this sense of, Black unity, which I, of course, carry with me at all times, not in a position to properly contextualize. Justin Hunt. I bring this up. I keep this nearby.
1 second applause.
Are you going to make merch for this? By the
way? I might need to. You're letting me know how that's resonated. It's the truth, though. I mean, people out here talking about stuff as if they are in a position to really.
Yeah,
explain it.
and if you make that and then just tell all of your white content creator friends, just have this nearby and acknowledge, I'm going to say this, but I might be wrong. I'm not in a position to properly contextualize.
I had a moment like that actually with one of the analysts in my audience, and Leona Hart, I think is her name. Mm-hmm. And so, I called into question the Megan Stallion, Megan's Law bar as an example of God tier lyricism. Right. And she came through with a very deep, dope, and dynamic answer, Right. And so I ended up pinning the comment. So the video that was on Grammy. It's the Grammy video with the Grammy subsections where you can find her comment. And it's really great, really wide ranging. And she was, she's one of the hotties in Megan Thee Stallion's audience community. And, she was speaking from that perspective. And it was in that moment that I realized I was not in the position to properly contextualize. 1 second applause to me for self-awareness. So, but that moment, like contextualizing, I mean, bringing the people together on stage at the pop out, right? I mean, that is one of those moments that, I mean, just out here in LA, people, like grown men were crying, when they saw that, I mean, there was people comparing that to, Rodney King, unity after Rodney King. I had literally grown men saying that to me, wow. And that's a transcendent, that's the example of using your powers and your platform for good that transcends anything that's taking place in as FD Signifier would say, the commodified culture industry.
Yeah. Yep. And then continuing that with the music video, managing to make a music video that continued a lot of that spirit and a lot of that unity and like that feeling of that song. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah,
I'm glad we both voted for Kendrick in this because
right. But then dropping it on 4th of July.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's dropped 6 songs this year. Yeah. He's unlike that. Got the 4 beef tracks, and then you've got When the Party Dies. Yeah. And but he ran the summer with Not Like Us. And that, truthfully, was another big criticism that Kendrick has had. You know, people act as if Kendrick isn't a hit maker. You know, they completely ignored Damn, I guess. But
and 95 was pretty big. I mean, it wasn't like a super hit, but you know, it was a hit. And his verses with Baby Keem, you know, those all did well.
I don't think there's anything as sticky on Mr. Morale. You know, Mr. Morale, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Untitled. And I don't think there's any hits on Untitled and Master. I don't think that's the point of that project. But To Pimp a Butterfly, Mr. Morale, All Right is a transcendent song. You know, King Kunta I love. I mean, I loved everything that they put out, but I don't. Outside of All Right, which is way bigger than any chart position. Those two projects are the ones that had the least sticky, in my opinion, singles. And 95, I think, had a lot of excitement around it because people had been waiting 5 years for new Kendrick. I love that song. It's one of my favorites on the album. But I don't think there's anything. I think Damn is the one where he proves himself to be a titan. And it's still odd to me when I hear people make criticism.
Forget it.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what J. Cole said, right? In 7 Minute Drill. He said, your first shit was classic, your last shit was tragic. Your second one put niggas asleep, but they gassed it. It was like, wait a minute, dog.
which one is the second? Did you carry the one? Because I don't.
Right.
It's funny too how you were saying, you know, that like the importance of All Right transcends the charts, which obviously, you know, it's true, and I get it. But maybe that's why Not Like Us is so wild, that it does that too. It transcends the charts in all those ways that, you know, I would be comfortable hearing you describe, not be comfortable describing. And then it's also a #1 hit. And then just on top of all of that, he drops all that science about the Reconstruction era. Like, as a professor, I'm like, I can tell you, it's, you know, obviously we live in very strange and unsettling political times. Part of the problem is that we're just not educated enough. And he is legitimately putting in real education, just in the middle of this like fun, dancey pop song. Yeah.
Bear with me for a second. Let me put y'all on game. Right. And that verse doesn't exist if Family Matters doesn't have the slaves line in it. Right. You know, in my opinion, it doesn't exist. But, you know, but that's the thing about that song. Like, to me, that is the 5 Tool song, right? That is like, you could smoke weed to it, you could ride to it, you could, it works in the gym, it works in the club, you could belly smack to it. You can get your belly smack on and be like, they not like us. They not like us.
That was a little tough. Minor line. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the hook works. Definitely the hook works.
The hook works.
That's funny. You have to just either get it over before the A minor line or don't get it started until after the line. But the hook works, right? So
yeah, it does.
But that's the thing. And then when I listen to that song, it resonates with me in foundational nature of hip hop, right? You know, obviously the beats jamming, you know, but the knowledge in it, right? Particularly the third verse, you know, this guy obviously is a battle track, so that element, that spirit of hip hop is all up in it, and the stickiness of it, right? Because after that was it the third verse or the last verse, it's just hooks. It's just hooks for like the next minute. It's like hook. Right? And so to ever make a song that big, to me, is a huge notch in Kendrick's who's having a better year, right? If you take away the battle, if you take away anything else that happened, anybody having a song about anything ever that reaches that level of culture, all cultures, diverse, whatever. You know, that's the song that stood up on its own. You know what I mean? Everybody was watching it, but there's people who weren't even following this battle who were like, I like that song.
That song is the album of the year.
Right.
Like that's how I think of it. It's like not even as part of the beef, just like it has that much weight. Yeah, wow. I'm now starting to talk myself up. I gotta remember how good Doechii is too. That's the other thing. So
we're almost there. We're almost there, right? Because because Kendrick obviously he has the Super Bowl announcement. Which shocked people. I think that really shocked people. You know, I can't say that I'm surprised in retrospect, but I definitely wasn't even considering it, you know, leading up to it. You know, I Future might have made a lot of sense given the year that he was having. He's got big hits. He's got there's a lot of talk about Lil Wayne at the Super Bowl, but Future could do a Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got between collaborations and his own joints. I think Future could do a Super Bowl. I wasn't thinking about it at all, but when news broke, Kendrick was doing the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, that's like going right back to that same idea of how do you maintain relevance while being politically conscious at the same time? Like those things always go against each other. And when I teach hip hop, I teach 1988 as like the year of division. So it's like we had Public Enemy, we had NWA. So like you have Fight the Power and you have Dope Man, and it's like the mainstream of rap followed Dope Man and abandoned Fight the Power. But like Fight the Power never goes totally away. It'll still come back from time to time, but in general, if you're saying Fight the Power, you're just going to be sidelined and no one's going to care about you. So like, how does he manage to do the Fight the Power stuff at all in the mainstream and so mainstream and then Super Bowl mainstream? And then is he going to say that he doesn't like the police? That's my main thing, because he didn't say that, right? He censored himself the last time he did the Super Bowl.
Interesting. That is right. Yeah, because what song is that? All Right? Is it all right?
Yeah. It was all right. Yeah. So he did that. He did that whole performance. But no, because Dre still said we still don't like the police.
Yeah.
But Kendrick did not say we hate Popo.
Right.
So maybe just like versus hate. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be watching.
Interesting.
Because he has to play all right. So is he going to say it? What's going to be the rules there?
But that is a very thin slice for any artist. How to be anti-establishment but globally accepted, or still be corporate friendly, one way or the other. Because I honestly think that's everybody's. I don't want to say everybody's goal, but I think I get bothered by arguments that say if you talk about certain things in your music, if you talk about oppression or social issues, or if you talk about political issues or whatever, that you should be broke, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you shouldn't do the Super. I mean, these artists are professionals in their space. This is, one of the biggest honors there is in music, and truthfully, Marvin Gaye sold a lot of records, I love Ta-Nehisi Coates. I've purchased his books. I don't think you have to be anti-capitalism to have to be socially conscious.
Yep.
And so we get an example of that again with Watch the Party Die, right?
Yes.
Which is that song even available for streaming? I've never looked for it on streaming, to be honest.
I haven't either. I mean, I feel like I've listened to it so many times, but always just,
I just listened to it on YouTube, so I'm not even sure where it is or where it's not. And that song, I felt like was a very smart strategic move. It was 180 degrees from Not Like Us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you try to follow up Not Like Us with another Not Like Us. I think that you.
Yeah.
And it's very prescient, because I think the next day, within the week, Diddy was arrested. I'm like, he's on a whole nother tier of group chat. Whatever they're group chatting about.
The other Illuminati group chat. There's like the two separate ones. There's the good Illuminati and the bad Illuminati, and the good Illuminati knew what was going on.
Right. Yeah. But that song also platforms Lecrae and D1.
Yeah.
It gives a big boost to Christian rap.
Right, which might end up working to actually mainstream them eventually, right? Like it might not be the next album, but now a lot of rap fans, myself included, have sort of, just allowed those artists to kind of do their own thing and just kind of assume, well, they're just doing their own thing, and I don't really want to hear some, my aunt used to, every time I'd see her, would ask me, how was your personal relationship with Jesus? Oh, Jesus. I don't need that in my rap music, But
1 second applause for Jesus.
Then of course, and my answer would always be like, we're cool. Yeah, I think we're cool.
I think we're good.
Yeah. So like that might end up, the whole Watch the Party Die, to me, that is an essential bit of not like, of the part of the beef that transcended Drake. That was the essential ending note. That was like, if you read a really good book and there's like an epilogue, and you almost skip the epilogue because you're like, I just finished the book, and then you go, oh right, it's this whole other thing. This isn't attacking Drake. Drake doesn't even matter compared to this war that's going on here. Drake is one like small field general in an entire army that he's trying to destroy, and then you have this whole
Yeah, I mean, and if you
Man,
take,
how did we vote against him? Jeez.
I mean, well, this conversation's still going. It's still
That's
going.
right.
So we have
votes are not in.
but if you take the moment of unity at the pop out, and then you take the platforming Christian artists, like
Yeah.
those are two things that I don't have an example. I mean, Kanye platformed Jesus, I guess, on Jesus Walks, which is pivotal and pioneering, but I can't think of a Christian artist, just shouting out, and two incredibly worthy ones, to be honest. But like that's using your platform for ideas that are bigger than culture,
and that have the added benefit of kind of pissing off white liberals, because because white liberals are all for the cause, but if it gets too religious-y, then we tend to get a little bit antsy, sort of like, well, that might end up turning into homophobia, or I don't know whatever kind of weird sort of sublimated racism that goes into most white liberalism. So I think that, much like the Kodak Black thing, that helps to kind of push against that, because I can properly contextualize the natural reaction of white liberals, and I can tell you, like, Christian rap, it's like, I don't know, it kind of hits that little note.
Yeah, I mean, and Kendrick's he's recording now. He's in album mode. He's in the studio. Hearing NDAs are out there, so sounds like things are going. But that is a whole lot. Like, we really talked about, that's a lot. I don't know if I've seen anyone maximize 6 songs. 6 songs, 5.5 songs, 5 songs in a verse. I don't think I've seen anybody maximize 5 songs in a verse to, a referendum on the industry and gang unity to Super Bowl appearance. I don't know if that to me that's a lot of things that actually transcend music. I might have to rethink my vote, but let's keep going real quick, because we still have some TDE things to get through. Now,
yes, and I should say that I put up a poll during my Absol live stream, and the vote went like 52 for TDE, 48 for Kendrick, and then after half an hour, it was 52 to Kendrick, 48 to TDE. So even the viewers are actually like trying to find that line. Like, this is a real low propensity voter situation. This is the only election that can only have a good result. It's the opposite of a normal election. So,
yeah. I mean, Top Dog did an interview this year with was it Music Business Worldwide, or was it Hits? I can't remember which platform. He did an interview with, and they asked him about, what's the linchpin to TDE's success, right? And he said, well, here's the question. I'll read the actual question. TDE also found success with development of newcomer singer-rapper Doechii and singer-songwriter Sir. What did you see in those 2 particular artists that gave you the confidence that they could carry the flag for TDE? He said, I thought they had all the talent in the world to go as far as they wanted to go. We look for all of our artists to be original, to say something.
Right.
To say something, right? And so that's the culture that created Kendrick Lamar, and so many other artists. And I think you made that point about the best thing about Blue Lips, about Schoolboy Q's album, right? Regardless of who we're listening to with TDE this year, especially, they're saying something. Like that's just embedded in the culture of the company. And Doechii's project is a great example of that.
Yeah, and it's saying something, but not going too preachy. And I think that's always the line, and they always manage to say something without you feeling, I don't know, like a nerd or something. Like there's some way of saying it that is the right amount of saying it. Yeah.
I mean, Doechii's project, Alligator Bites Never Heals, seemed like it was universally embraced to me. At least by the people who I care about their opinion on music. Definitely that. But from an industry standpoint as well, were you caught off guard by that project? How'd you like her EP before that? Her EP, I liked her EP a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't review it, so I didn't listen to it a ton, but like my daughter was vaguely aware of it, because she isn't like a social media kid, but she's aware of it because she's in high school. So like she told me about Doechii, but like really that was my first real time sitting down and listening to it, and it just, I mean, that song Boom Bap, like I feel like over time we will really come to enjoy Boom Bap. I've been really haunted by one thing that Curtis said on the Culture United, where he sort of called out Boom Bap underground producers as being like just as, you know, color by numbers as like any bad trap producer in Atlanta. He didn't say it in those words. But like he said basically that idea. So like the idea of like making a boom bap song that's also criticizing boom bap songs and sort of questioning the sort of, again, that hierarchy of value in hip hop and just saying like, I can do this. Yeah. I was really blown away just because, I mean, between like boom bap and then Nissan Altima, I mean, just like, I did my little Grammy thing and like, I realized even though I want Not Like Us to win everything, I think Nissan Altima is the best rap performance. And I think that's a weird thing that Grammys actually figured something out. Like, when do Grammys get things that right? Like, yeah, the performance, the breath control, the timbre of her voice, the rhymes. I mean, that song is just an absolute masterpiece. So yeah, I was expecting like something good. And then I've seriously spent most of this year being like, will anything be better than Blue Lips? And then since that came out, I've been like, is Blue Lips better than Doechii? Like that's why I've been thinking what a great year it's been.
I mean, you know, the thing that stands out to me with Doechii is that it's just her. My favorite things about rappers are voice and imagination, right? Or an artist, truthfully. How do you sound saying something that's been said a million times throughout the course of human history, but in a brand new way, right?
Yep.
And Doechii she is the epitome of that. This project is the epitome of that. I mean, she's giving me Busta Rhymes and Missy Elliott moments. You know, she's giving me, you know, Lauryn Hill moments. She's giving me Kendrick Lamar moments. You know, like just her range of things that boxes she can get into naturally, and still be artistically courageous is, you know, I guess truthfully a hallmark of being on TDE.
Yeah, that's true.
If you really think about it.
Yeah, that's their tradition.
Right. So we have, and Doechii was nominated for 4 Grammys upcoming this year. So last year we had SZA clean up. Yeah. Doechii's got 4 noms this year, right? And we still and Ab-Soul just dropped a project.
Yeah.
Now you're a fan of the new Ab-Soul album.
Yes. Yeah. Are you not?
I like it. I think for me with this Ab-Soul project is I'm kind of caught in the middle, to be honest. Like I like his raps. I mean, his raps are always really. That's what I appreciate most about rap music, to be honest. Is the raps. But you know, and I love what it means to him. You know, he lost his homie Doe Burger, and so this is sort of an ode to him while also making the type of music I think that if I understand this, how this story has been told, the type of music that Doe Burger liked the most, which is stuff that Soul doesn't really do. So, you know, I listened to it and, you know, somewhere he said, you know, the best way to listen to this album is to treat it like you're listening to a new artist. And so in that regard, I think it's successful because it doesn't feel like a lot of the things that I really appreciate about Ab-Soul albums. But, you know, and then I also feel like there's a lot of really great ideas on the album. I'm not sure if the way that I'm listening to it is keeping up with my general expectations for an Ab-Soul album. And so in that sense, I'm conflicted on how I feel about it, right? I get his intent and I think it's imaginative to position the listener in this way, to take them sort of outside the box of what, like to think about this artist as a whole new artist without necessarily being 100% conceptual. Like it's not like, you know, it's not like Black Trash, Kirk Jones story or anything like that, you know. But
you don't have to know the story to enjoy it. Right. But knowing the story adds like a different level of enjoyment.
Right, it does. So, but it doesn't feel like an Ab-Soul project to me. And so that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I enjoyed listening to it. I'm not sure how sticky it's going to be for me. Right. You know, but you know, I was curious about Blue Lips too. That one came back around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the part of the joy that I have of being somebody who didn't pay attention to music for like 10 or 15 years. So like I never really spent a lot of time listening to Absol. Like I basically just knew his features. So like this was the first time I've ever seriously listened to Absol, and maybe that's why I love it so much, because I didn't like, I could understand, like I felt that he was reaching into two different areas. Like I felt that on my first listen without even really knowing the story. And that was a pretty impressive feeling to have, where you're like listening to somebody who like you sort of know, but not really know. And then you hear them and you can tell that they're actually expanding what they do, despite the fact you don't know their stuff well enough to say that. So yeah, and it may too, just, I mean, you know, cause you don't do a lot of like reviews. Right. So like when you do reviews, you have to listen to albums, you know, whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, it's like,
right.
So
yeah. I mean, I've got
definitely, it definitely benefits from listening to it a bunch more times, because you're like, oh wait, actually the production's better than I thought it was. Oh, actually, you know, that verse is better. So it really is. Yeah. I mean, it's not as good. It's not up there with Schoolboy Q and Doechii. I'm not saying it's up there, but it's closer to that than it is to, I don't know, to something bad.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't do reviews on the channel, but I still review albums. And one of the main reasons I do is because I do the Revolt year-end top albums list. That's my column. And so every year I've done it for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years maybe. But like, so I always have to be prepared for that, because there's been years where the albums I picked didn't get selected by the publication, so then they wanted to go with some other albums I didn't listen to as much, and I had 2 days to turn around. 11, crazy, like 11 essentially 11 reviews. You know, so I know what it's like. You know, so we'll see where that is. But like, if you really think about it, and this maybe brings it back around to TDE having a better year, right? Because another thing stood out to me that Top Dog said in that same interview. He said, the question is, I find it interesting that as soon as Kendrick left TDE, all you heard from the critics and fans were that the label wouldn't survive without his franchise superstar. How gratifying was it for you personally that you were able to silence the doubters? And he said, we are always confident in what we're doing in terms of our vision. But yeah, we heard a lot of talk. It's a lot quieter now. But we are a real record company. It doesn't fall on the shoulders of just one person. We're going to keep turning these records out and keep going. And to me, ultimately, I think that's why, you know, that's a big tipping point for me when it says that TDE had a better year. Because truthfully, you know, if we're looking at the pressure for Kendrick to be successful, but also the pressure for TDE to be successful with both of them separating, you know, at least from a business entity standpoint.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, TDE honestly has a lot more pressure and a lot more potentially to lose, you know, because this has been a 20-year journey. Yeah. 20 years plus, truthfully, but 20 years since this company was formed. And they've had success with a number of different artists, right? But nobody's had the type of critical acclaim that Kendrick Lamar has had in music, and in rap music, I would say. And I mean, and you know, their artists, Kendrick Lamar, won a Pulitzer. So they're the only record label to have a Pulitzer that came through the organization. And going into this year, first year, you know, I guess not first year technically, but going into this year without Kendrick and what they've been able to do in their 20th year without necessarily having Kendrick as on the roster is incredible. And I think you can to a degree say the same thing about Kendrick. What's it going to look like when we leave? He leaves TDE. And in a lot of ways,
I'm going to do something to help your engagement. Okay. Let's come up with the perfect sports analogy.
Okay.
Because I like the idea of like the Spurs being a system, but like this could have been Tom Brady leaving the Patriots, right? When Tom Brady, because I'm from Boston, right? So Tom Brady left the Patriots, it's like all the Bostonians like, no problem, kid. Belichick's got it all. Brady had nothing to do with it. And then like the Patriots completely tanked. Brady won the Super Bowl. It turns out that was the answer. And like, obviously it was both of them working together, but like the fact that TDE proved it wasn't the Patriots, that it was the system, that they can have their star. They can be like the 49ers when they lost Montana and then had Steve Young. It's like, oh, right, like they can keep going. So let's try to get engagement. What is the best sports analogy of a superstar leaving a franchise, still being a superstar, and then the franchise still succeeding?
Still being a superstar and the franchise still succeeding.
Yeah, I think Joe Montana and the Niners is the best.
That's a really good one. That's a really good one. Another sports analogy. And the franchise still succeeding.
I think the Oilers won one after Gretzky left, but I'm not sure about that.
My hockey stops at NHL 95, HLPA on Genesis. Anything after that, I have no clue what's happening over there. I mean, that's a great point, though. I mean, look, I can't even really, outside of the sports analogy, because I was thinking about this from a music context actually also too. When Biggie died, Bad Boy was never the same. You know, when Mace went to, you know, when he found Jesus, they were never the same. You know, when Pac dies, death row is never the same. You know, so even within the space, we've never seen that. What's the sports analogy though? 'Cause I'm a Bulls fan, but like,
but they
you know,
so that's why it's engagement, Justin. Because we're gonna have everyone in your comment section. They're gonna say, "How could you not think of this one?"
Right.
I'm sure that, but it's really important because usually what happens is either the superstar fails or the franchise fails. And that's the story. And that's what everyone thought would happen. And then this was the year that it was proven that Kendrick doesn't need Top Dog, the Top Dog doesn't need Kendrick, and they both get to just be excellent with each other and help each other and acknowledge each other without beefing, you know?
Right. Yeah. Let's think about this. Okay, how do we look at the Raptors? Right? They got Kawhi, they got a title, and then Kawhi left. But Kawhi kind of, in my opinion, kind of fell off after that. You know what I mean? He can't stay healthy for anything. Kawhi is interesting, right? Because he has a title with the Spurs, too.
Right.
But the Spurs haven't been the same since Kawhi left.
The Drake Glazers or not. I don't know if you're just trying to provoke Canadians again.
Second lost. I wasn't trying, actually. I was just like, I'm really in this basketball. You know what? We'll see. Yeah, let us know in the audience what's the perfect sports metaphor.
Yeah,
you know, because I think Tom Brady's actually the best one, right? I mean, they left. That Tom Brady situation is what we're used to seeing.
Yeah,
right. And I'm a Niners fan too, so
okay.
But that Niners situation is a great example of at least
because how did they do it?
Yeah, of the rarity of that happening. Interesting question. Let's see. Yeah, I wonder what people are going to say about this one. So, all right. We're now in, a week and a half, 2 weeks from Thanksgiving.
Yep.
At this point in time, who has had the better year? Kendrick Lamar or TDE, given everything we just put into context?
I think I talked myself into Kendrick. I'm a contrarian, and that's the obvious answer is Kendrick. Right. I think I have to be a contrarian to my own contrarianism. Right. Inconceivable. I think it's the Mr. Morale thing. It's the giving the power. I don't know. I mean, obviously we can't have ties because this is a competitive art.
Right. But right. No ties.
I think I'm going to flip my vote to Kendrick.
Okay.
But if SZA comes out with that album before the end of the year, you know, that might flip it. Or if Kendrick, because Kendrick, you're saying he's recording.
Yeah, I don't think he's dropping yet, but
yeah, but he could drop tomorrow. He's that surprising. He could drop a double album tomorrow and another album a week from now and be like, oh, right. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially if TDE puts out their greatest hits.
Yeah.
If they put that out and that's got some Black Hippie on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. You might have to have an addendum December 31st.
You know, I guess ultimately I'm going to go with, man, this is tough. This is really tough. I'm going to go with Kendrick, right? But my tipping point for Kendrick is the pop out and bringing Christian rap into a mainstream conversation.
All right.
Right. So it's like the unity aspect of the pop out and bringing, you know, this underappreciated, you know, sector of hip hop, which truthfully, in my opinion, if you really want to hear some lyrical innovation, go listen to some Christian rappers.
I will.
Go check them out.
Let me know. I mean, that taught me that I should be paying more attention.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that's funny, but just by a nose, like just by like a whisker, right? Because the overarching answer again is that they're, you know, Kendrick will always be TDE. So ultimately, really, the answer is TDE, right? Because everything that Kendrick did is a reflection or came from the TDE incubator. So I don't know. But, you know, I think it's, I'm going to go with Kendrick because I think those two moments they transcended simply what's happening in the business of selling music. And you know, to me, that's always the most powerful part of this culture, is its ability to affect the world, spark change, and at its best make people's lives better. You know, and I think he did a great job of using his platform for those things this year.
Well, you know, I think it's like the opposite of Alien versus Predator. It's, you know, whoever loses, we win. So I think, in the end, that's why it's so much fun, because it's a beef where we don't, you know, there's not going to be any TDE stands coming after us. There's not going to be any Kendrick stands coming after us. There's not going to be any acrimony. It's just going to be like, that's a goofy answer. Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Right. This is a good one, though. I mean, this is a good call on this one. We've been talking for a couple of weeks about our next collab and what we want to talk about. And I think this is good.
Yeah. It was a text I think I just sent you. I think it's like, who's having a better year? You're like, we shouldn't do this. I'm like, I don't know if it's an entire video. Here we are. It's like an hour.
Yeah, we're an hour in.
I can keep going.
Right. Word up,
we
man.
are yappers.
Yeah. Man, if you haven't checked out Professor Sky's channel, Professor Sky Record Review, punch yourself in the face. So the last thing I saw was your live with Absol. What do you have coming up next, or is there anything you want to direct the audience to?
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, I really just do three reviews a week. So if there's a rap album you like this year, this is what I would say. A lot of people recently have been telling me, including I think Rob Markman and Curtis King, that they've seen my thumbnails for like years and never clicked on them because they don't want to see some white professor dork talk about hip hop. So I want to reach out to anybody, because I would do the same thing. I wouldn't click on my thumbnails either. I'd be like, who's this guy? Professor? Not next. So I'm just going to make a pitch to your audience. Next time you see one of my thumbnails, just click on it, because I might say something interesting.
Yeah, guaranteed to say something interesting. You know what I mean? So, Professor Scott, man, thank you very much for for coming on the platform. I forgot whose channel we're on right now. We got another Culture United coming up too. I want to talk to you about that one. And
cool.
So
I'm always down.
Yeah, look out for that as well.
It was really cool, actually. My brother, who doesn't follow hip hop, he watches my stuff, and he's like, "That Culture United thing's amazing." That was just so great. Every single person on there was awesome. Like, he doesn't pay attention to rap at all. So just so you know, you're doing some really great stuff there. If you can get my old Southern rock loving brother to tune in.
Word up! 1 second applause to your old Southern rock loving brother to tuning in. Tell him I said thank you for that.
I will.
Word up, man. Professor Sky, as always, 9 second applause to you, sir. It's all happening.
Justin Hunte is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunte is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom bapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunte is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunte is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.